Who are you, really? Not the name written on your passport. Not the title printed on your business card. Not the story you repeat to yourself in the silence of night. Those are just costumes, stitched together from memories, labels, and expectations. Useful, yes, but costumes nonetheless. Alan Watts devoted his life to asking this question, and to daring us to ask it too. Because if you pause long enough, if you stop the endless chatter of work deadlines, family duties, social performances, you might feel a subtle trembling, an unease, a suspicion that the mask you've been wearing isn't all of you, that behind your eyes, something vast and unspeakably alive is looking out, waiting to be remembered. This is why Alan Watts matters now more than ever. We live in an age of constant anxiety, overwhelmed by screens, trapped by schedules, haunted by the pressure to control everything. We are taught to treat life as a problem to be solved rather than a mystery to be lived. We clutch at security, at identity, at certainty, yet feel more lost than ever. Watts was a bridge between worlds, a rebel who took the paradoxes of Zen, the flow of Taoism, the wisdom of Hindu philosophy, and translated them into words a Western heart could hear. But he never taught like a dry professor. He laughed, he played, he unsettled. He wanted to wake people up, not to another belief, but to a direct experience of being alive. And what was his promise? That the self you're clinging to is far too small. That liberation does not come from tightening your grip, but from letting go. That your freedom lies not in who you think you are, but in discovering you are not a separate fragment at all, but life itself, flowing, dancing, endlessly becoming. The way of liberation is not about escape. It is about seeing clearly, about loosening the mask and realizing you are not simply a human being in the universe. You are the universe being human. And once you glimpse this truth, even for a moment, nothing is ever the same. 1. The illusion of control. We spend our lives clenching our fists around certainty, convinced that if we plan hard enough, work long enough, we can control the unfolding of reality. But what reminds us? Control is a great mirage. Life is not a machine to command, but a current to ride. 2. The wisdom of insecurity. Fear is born from clinging to the past, to the future, to the false security of permanence. But permanence is an illusion. Watts teaches that true peace comes not from resisting insecurity, but from embracing it, dancing with it, trusting its flow. 3. Ego, the greatest trick. We think of ourselves as separate, trapped inside a body, waging war against the world. But this ego is a mask, a clever illusion. What shows us that the self we defend so fiercely is only a story, and that liberation begins when we see through it. 4. The dance of life. We are taught to treat life as a journey with goals, milestones, and a final destination. But life is not a march. It is a dance. Watts urges us to hear the music, to stop rushing to the end, to rediscover the rhythm of being alive, the illusion of control. Picture this. You wake up already late. Your phone buzzes with deadlines, messages, demands. You rush to manage everything. The traffic, the meetings, the bills, the expectations. Somewhere in the back of your mind, there's a voice whispering, if only I can get everything under control, then I'll finally feel safe. Then I'll finally feel free. But control is a mirage. No matter how tight you grip, life slips through your fingers. Alan Watts once compared it to trying to clutch water in your hands. The harder you squeeze, the faster it runs away. And yet, our entire modern life is built on this frantic squeezing, this obsession with managing outcomes, predicting the future, bending reality to our will. Why do we do this? Because the unknown terrifies us. Because deep down, we believe that if we don't manage every detail, everything will collapse. But Watts laughed at this madness. He said, the desire for security and the feeling of insecurity are the same thing. To hold your breath is to lose your breath. Think about that. The very act of clinging creates the fear we are running from. Control and insecurity are two sides of the same coin, the current and the swimmer. Imagine being caught in a river current. Panic tells you to thrash, to fight, to force your way upstream. But in doing so, you exhaust yourself and sink. The paradox is that survival comes not from control, but from surrender. You float, You flow, you let the current carry you, and in that very letting go, you find freedom. This was Watt's way of seeing life. He warned that our obsession with control is like swimming against a Tao, against the natural flow of things. And the Tao, the way of the universe, cannot be managed. It can only be danced with. The madness of the clock. One of Watt's favorite targets was our addiction to time. We live by the clock, slicing eternity into hours and minutes, convincing ourselves that life is a series of deadlines and schedules. We think, if only I can plan the next week, the next year, the next decade, then I will finally be in control. But clocks are human inventions. Time, in reality, is fluid like the seasons, like breathing, like tides. By worshiping the clock, we enslave ourselves to an abstraction. Watt said, we are living in a perpetual tomorrow, and thus never truly alive today. Control tricks us into believing that life is always just ahead of us. In the next achievement, the next goal, the next carefully calculated step. But life is only here, only now. Control and the ego. At the root of this illusion of control is something deeper. The ego, the little I inside our head that imagines itself the ruler of reality. The ego believes it is a captain of the ship, steering the vast ocean of existence. But Watt would smile and remind us, the ego is not the driver, but the passenger. Consider your body. Do you control your heartbeat? Do you consciously command your liver to process toxins, your cells to divide, your neurons to fire? Of course not. And yet, all of it happens effortlessly. Life lives itself through you, without your management. So why should the rest of life be any different? Practical liberation. Here's a practical liberation Watt offered. Stop fighting the current. Stop clutching at water. See that the more you demand certainty, the more anxious you become. The more you insist on control, the less free you feel. Try this. The next time you feel anxious, pause and notice your breath. Don't force it. Don't regulate it. Simply watch it happen. The inhale, the exhale, the rising and falling. See how life breathes you. This is not metaphor. This is reality. You are being lived as much as you think you are living. To recognize this is not to give up responsibility, but to relax into a deeper kind of trust, a trust in the unfolding of the universe, of the Tao, of the dance of being. We live in a world obsessed with safety. Insurance policies, retirement plans, health apps, tracking devices, all whispering the same promise. You will be secure. You will be safe. You will be in control. And yet, the more we chase security, the more fragile we feel. Every plan can fail. Every possession can be lost. Every heartbeat is borrowed, not guaranteed. Alan Watts called this the great paradox of modern life. The more desperately we cling to security, the more insecure we become. He once wrote, the more a thing tends to be permanent, the more it tends to be lifeless. We long for permanence in a world that is nothing but change, and this longing is the root of our anxiety, the nature of insecurity. Think about the ocean. Its waves rise and fall, crash and dissolve, endlessly changing. If a wave were to say, I must stay exactly as I am, it would break itself apart. Its life is in its movement, its insecurity, its inability to remain fixed. You are no different. Your life is not a static possession to be locked in a box. It is a flowing process of breaths, moments, emotions, seasons. To demand permanence is to fight against the very nature of life. Watt would laugh gently here, reminding us, to resist change, to try to cling to security, is to hold your breath and you suffocate. The Western tragedy. Watt often criticized the Western dream of making it, the belief that life is a ladder leading to some final state of safety and success. Go to school, get the degree, find a job, buy the house, secure the pension, retire at last, only to die. The tragedy, he said, is that we spend our whole lives preparing to live, but never truly living, always waiting for security to arrive, but never seeing that insecurity is life itself. This endless postponement is why so many people feel hollow, even after achieving everything. The ladder was an illusion. The security never comes. Zen and the tightrope. In Zen, there is a story of a monk who walked a tightrope between two cliffs. Someone asked him, "How do you keep from falling?" The monk replied, by falling over and over until I am no longer afraid. This is the wisdom of insecurity. It is not about avoiding the fall, but about learning to trust the balance, the sway, the very risk of walking at all. What's believed that once you stop resisting insecurity, it transforms. What once felt like danger begins to feel like aliveness. The trembling of uncertainty is not the enemy. It is the pulse of life itself, the practical side of letting go. So how do we live this way? Not by abandoning responsibility, but by loosening the desperate grip on certainty. Notice how often your mind leaps into the future. What will happen tomorrow? What if I fail? What if I lose? Instead of fighting these thoughts, simply observe them. Notice that they are only thoughts, not reality. The future never arrives as a plan. It only ever arrives as the present. What's urged us to anchor in the now, not as an escape, but as the only place life is real. Tomorrow is an abstraction. Yesterday is a memory. The only real security is the living moment, unfolding now. Try this. Next time you are anxious about the future, ask yourself, what is lacking in this moment right here, right now? Not in the imagined tomorrow, but in the living present. More often than not, you'll find nothing is missing, the beauty of impermanence. Instead of fearing insecurity, what invites us to see its beauty? A flower is precious precisely because it fades. A sunset is breathtaking because it doesn't last. Music moves us because each note dies as soon as it is born. Life's insecurity is not a flaw. It is the very essence of its beauty. To accept impermanence is to fall in love with existence, to embrace it not as a possession, but as a gift. Transition to the next keynote. So we see, chasing permanence is a source of our suffering. And insecurity, once feared, becomes a very ground of freedom. But then another question arises. If insecurity is the truth of life, then who is this I who fears it? Who is this self clinging so desperately to safety? This leads us into the next revelation of Alan Watts. The greatest trick of all, the illusion of the ego. The greatest trick. From the moment we are born, the world begins whispering into our ears. You are a separate self. You are an individual. You are a name, a body, a personality. We are given labels. Boy, girl, son, daughter, student, citizen. And slowly we begin to believe the story. I am this. I am me. I am separate from you, from them, from the world. Alan Watts believed this was the greatest sleight of hand in human history. The illusion of the ego. A trick so convincing that we spend our lives defending it, polishing it, fearing for its survival. But here's the shocking truth. The ego is not who you are. It is only an image, a mask, a role you play in the grand drama of existence. The skin-encapsulated ego. What's often poked fun at the Western idea that I am a little creature inside this bag of skin, looking out at a foreign world. He called it the skin-encapsulated ego, the belief that you are a ghost trapped inside a machine, a lonely subject peering out at objects. But does that idea really hold up? Think of your body. You say, I breathe, as if you, a little manager, are pumping your lungs. But breathing happens. You say, I digest, as though you supervise the entire chemistry of your stomach. But digestion happens. You say, I think, but even thoughts appear and disappear without your command. So where is this I you think you are? Watts would smile and say, you are not an isolated ego controlling a body. You are the process of life itself, happening as this body, this mind, this moment, the story of the actor. Imagine an actor so skilled, so immersed in a role, that he forgets he is acting. He becomes a character, fights for its survival, fears its death, clings to its identity. But the audience knows the truth. Behind the mask is someone far larger, freer, more alive than the character could ever be. Watts said that each of us is that actor. We have so thoroughly identified with our masks, our egos, that we have forgotten the one who wears them. Liberation begins when you laugh at the role. When you remember you are not just a character, you are the actor, and beyond the actor, you are the stage itself. Why we fear losing the ego. But here's the catch. If the ego is just a mask, why does letting go feel so terrifying? Because the ego has convinced us it is life itself. To lose it feels like death. We defend it in arguments. We decorate it with possessions. We chase success to make it feel important. We fear aging because it threatens its story. Yet what's insisted? Letting go of the ego is not death. It is awakening. It is like realizing that the wave is not separate from the ocean. The wave rises and falls, but the ocean remains. You are not the fleeting wave of ego. You are the ocean of life, expressing itself in wave after wave. The ego as a useful fiction. Watts never said we should destroy the ego. He was playful about it. He knew that roles, masks, and identities have their use, like a map is useful for finding your way. But confusion arises when we mistake the map for the territory, the mask for the face, the ego for the self. He would say, ego is a social convention, a symbol like money, useful, but only as long as you don't forget it's an illusion. Practical liberation. So how do we loosen the grip of the ego? Not by fighting it, but by seeing through it. Try this. When you feel insulted, anxious, or threatened, pause and ask, who exactly is threatened here? Is it your body, your breath, or is it just an idea of yourself, a fragile story demanding protection? Notice how often your suffering comes not from what is happening, but from defending the mask. The liberation is not in destroying the ego, but in laughing at it, loosening it, wearing it lightly, as you might wear a costume of play. The cosmic joke. For Watts, this realization was not grim, but hilarious. He loved the cosmic joke, that we are the universe pretending to be separate egos, playing hide-and-seek with itself. He would laugh and say, you are something the whole universe is doing, in the same way that a wave is something the whole ocean is doing. The ego's greatest trick was making us forget this. But once you see through it, once you realize you are not the mask, not the character, not the separate little me, life begins to lighten, fear dissolves, playfulness returns, transition to the next keynote. And so the mask begins to fall. But once it does, a new question arises. If I am not just this ego, not just this little self, then what is life really about? Watts answers with a smile. Life is not a problem to solve, nor a journey to complete. Life is a dance, and you are already dancing. Waves of liberation. And so, here we arrive, not at an ending, but at a return. We began with the mask, the false self we clutch so tightly. We saw how our obsession with control leaves us restless, how our hunger for security only deepens our insecurity, how the ego tricks us into believing we are alone. And yet, in each unveiling, Alan Watts pointed us toward a greater freedom. The freedom of seeing that life does not need to be managed, secured, or conquered. Life only needs to be lived. He taught that liberation is not escape. It is not hiding away in caves or mastering endless techniques or collecting spiritual badges of honor. Liberation is far simpler. It is remembering what you already are, a wave of the ocean, a note in the song, a dancer in the dance. Watts' voice, playful yet piercing, still rings with his wisdom. Life is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be danced. The ego may tremble at insecurity, but the deeper self, the one that is not separate from the cosmos, has nothing to fear, for it was never born and it can never die. And so, the way of liberation is to let go, not into nothingness, but into fullness, to stop clutching and to laugh at the game, to breathe, and to see that you are not a stranger here. You belong utterly. You are not the mask. You are not the separate little I. You are the universe, shimmering, breathing, flowing. Play at being you. So dance, laugh, let go, trust the current. And when the mind asks, where am I going? What is the destination? Remember, there is none. The point of dancing is not to arrive, but to dance. And in this moment, right now, you are already free.